Hey everyone, welcome to the first edition of Kings of the North Pro Sports Talk, where we talk everything Minnesota pro sports. Today I want to talk to you about my favorite squad, the Minnesota Vikings. Although the Vikings aren't doing too hot this year, there's always plenty to talk about. Mainly the concern right now is what our draft position is going to be. I'm going to talk about doing different things like tanking for Teddy, which I just came up with right now. You can use it in the future if you want. And just overall, what at the position we're in right now, what is our draft going to look like, what it could potentially look like. I'm going to look into a lot of different stuff like that today. So as it sits right now, we're actually the number 4 overall draft pick this year, with the Texans, the St. Louis Rams, and the Atlanta Falcons in front of us. The great news about this situation is that at least 2 out of those 3 teams are not looking quarterback. Obviously, the Falcons have Matt Ryan, a very solid quarterback, and the Rams, although they're not getting the production out of Sam Bradford as they'd like to see, they are very financially invested in him. The Texans is really where it starts to get interesting because we're not 100% sure what they're going to be looking for. A lot of people do think quarterback, but Case Keenum has done enough to maybe show that they might take a chance on him. His quarterback rating this year is actually sitting around like guys like Jay Cutler, Matt Ryan, even Andrew Luck, and RG3. He's right in that area, so it's not like he's playing horribly. He just could be playing better. So although the Texans may be thinking quarterback, the prospect of adavion Clowney, the defensive end out of South Carolina, is very tempting. He's been called the best defensive player to come out of the draft in a decade plus. And pairing that kind of player up with a guy like J.J. Watt, who's already proven to be one of the best defensive players in the NFL, is going to be very tempting for them. So I'm really interested to see how that plays out. So what this means for the Vikings is all dependent on the first overall pick, basically. And I should mention that this isn't set in stone by any means, as most of you know, that there can be a lot of movement in the last few weeks of the season. We could move up, we could move down. The Texans probably will stay at that number 1 spot because they have like 2 more losses than pretty much anyone else in the NFL right now. But depending on what the Texans go with, if they go with Clowney and we stay in the same range with St. Louis Rams and Atlanta Falcons ahead of us, we have a very, very good shot at Teddy Bridgewater. Now, if that doesn't happen, let's say that the Texans go with Bridgewater, then we're looking at a guy like Derek Carr. So now let's do a little bit of QB comparison between Bridgewater and Carr. Although Bridgewater is a very mobile quarterback, he definitely has a pocket presence. He will stick in the pocket first, and even when he's forced to roll out, he has great vision. He looks down the field before he decides to take off and run. Now, Bridgewater also has solid accuracy and a very strong arm. Now let's check out Teddy Bridgewater's stats for the 2013 season. This is not including bowl games. He had 268 completions on 382 attempts for 3,523 yards. That's also a completion percentage of 70.2%. He had 28 touchdowns on 4 interceptions with a passer rating of 169.7. On the other hand, Carr can be viewed as more of a gunslinger, a stick in the pocket and zip it across the middle type of quarterback. He has a very quick release, good arm strength, and although he has superior athleticism, he tends not to use it as much as a Teddy Bridgewater or other mobile quarterbacks that we have seen. He tends to stick in the pocket and even roll out and look down the field. Now let's look at Derek Carr's 2013 stats. He had 424 completions on 605 passes. That's a passing percentage of 70.1. He led the NCAA in yards at 4,866. He had 48 touchdowns on 7 interceptions with a passer rating of 161.5. Now, to me, either of these quarterbacks would be a significant step up from what we're currently dealing with in Minnesota and could potentially be franchise quarterbacks that bring us into the future. But as I close, I want to discuss what it would look like if the Vikings do win several of their last games here and move down the draft board from the areas of 6 to 10, what we can expect to see at the quarterback position. Now, what we would be looking at in that situation is we could be seeing quarterbacks like a Blake Bortles from Central Florida or a Johnny Manziel, as most of you know, from Texas A&M. Those are the quarterbacks we could be seeing. But because the first round is going to be very heavy on QBs, and there's quite a few teams looking for QBs, this could be become very convoluted very quickly, as us, potentially the Texans, the Jaguars, Cleveland, and the Raiders are all potentially looking at quarterbacks. So we'll really see what happens as we move forward. I want to discuss a conversation that's become very controversial the last few years, and that is tanking to get better picks. It's an issue that the Vikings are dealing with currently this year and dealt with a few years ago when Andrew Luck and RG3 came into the NFL, and we thought we could have gotten one of those if we lost a couple more games. Mostly I want to discuss why this is very unrealistic for a team. And I'm not saying that it's not good for the team in the future, but it's very unrealistic currently for the current players, number one, and for the current coaches, number two. This is because job security in the NFL is quite poor all around. The average lifespan of a player in the NFL is only about 6 years. So players and coaches alike can't necessarily concern themselves with what the future of that specific team is going to look like when they can't guarantee that they're even going to be on that team the next season. What the players are really concerned about is their next contract, their next bonus, their next big payday, because with the low job security in the NFL, that's really what they need to be concerned about. Although football is a very team-oriented sport, they just can't concern themselves about future prospects when they're uncertain about their future in the NFL. I have to assume this is something that Leslie Frazier and Rick Spielman are concerned with at the moment. They are all on the hot seat because of the poor season that the Vikings are having, including all the other coordinators. So Leslie can't concern himself with what draft picks he's going to get the next season if he can't guarantee that's going to be him making those picks the next year. On the other hand, what coaches can do, and this isn't only in a situation where they're comfortable that they're going to be the coach the next year, is they can start implementing in younger players into the system to really see what they can do to evaluate their talent so you can move on to the next years and see if they're going to be a staple of your team for years to come. The Vikings have been doing a little bit of this. I'm not so sure that it's for that reason, more than we're getting some poor play out of some of the starters that we have been seeing. Cordero Patterson's getting more playing. Xavier Rhodes. Audie Cole just recently started at middle linebacker, but that's because of other issues that we've been having, or them just coming into their own and really stepping up. So I'm really interested to see what happens with the Vikings, but if you think that tanking is a good prospect, it may be for the future of our organization, but it is definitely not for the current players and coaches on the team. So don't expect it to happen realistically in the setting that we're Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/KOTN Sports News. See you guys soon.